A very good morning and welcome to this special broadcast. We are coming to you live from the Protea Hotel here in Kampala. The Economic Policy Research Center at Makerere University has organized a policy dialogue where informality of businesses is being discussed. The question of the day is regulation driving informality or the informal sector in the country? What can be done to erase the friction points that often bar many businesses from seeking formality and being able to take on the advantages that come from being formally registered? As we are coming to you right now, the discussion is already going on, having started at 9 a.m. Right now, the official that is speaking is Enyimu Joseph, Emmanuel Erem, rather, from the EPRC, who is presenting a dialogue or a presentation that touches on the aspects that define informality both as a fiscal issue and a legal issue. We shall be, of course, going for the next 1 hour, and the discussion will go through a panel that has officials from the Ministry of Finance. We also have officials from the Microfinance Regulation, as well as another official from the Uganda Hotels Association. These ones will be gathering opinion on the friction points that have allowed informality to thrive and as such costing the economy heavily. Joining me right now is a research fellow at Economic Policy Research Center to help us understand the gist of the policy dialogue, what defined the expectations and what outcomes are expected after the dialogue ends in just about 2 hours' time. Many thanks for joining us, Dr. Brian Serujoji.
Thank you.
You are discussing a very pertinent aspect in as far as the economy is concerned. Many times Ugandans have been propped as very entrepreneurial, but the question lingers. Are these entrepreneurs registered? Are they formal? And is that helping grow the economy, or is the informality, the inability to be registered and also pay taxes, affecting the economy heavily? Speak to us about that, but also what you intend to achieve by the policy dialogue right now.
Thank you so much, Chris. Today's dialogue poses the question. Government has been undertaking very many initiatives, and the concentration has been on pushing businesses to register. But our key argument is that government has also to be inward-looking. It's not only going to take to push businesses to register by making the administrative processes easy. Government the regulatory environment around where businesses operate has to be looked into. And in this dialogue, our argument, our key discussion is that we want to see how properly is the land regulated. You know very well that, Chrissy, that in this country, most of our administrative centers, the districts, the cities that we are multiplying, the municipalities, do not have fiscal development plans. And that directly speaks to trade order. So right. Besides making it easy for the business, government has to make sure that the city is organized. It's only in Uganda where you find a bar close to a church, close to a residential area, and that disorganization is hard for the agents like URA or even Uganda Registration Services Bureau is supposed to enforce registration to find where businesses are. Secondly, we look at the labor, workers, regulation around workers. As you know, most of our workers in this country are informal. They remain in informality. So in this policy dialogue, we want to understand how does the ministry that is responsible for workers, the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, how can they effectively regulate workers, that they have contracts, that they have they contribute to social security contribution? Because look, if workers are not contributing, that burden will fall squarely on government. At old age, government has to provide social like welfare. we are doing in the SAGE project. So and then the other issue is capital. You know that most of the business structure in Uganda is that 85% of our businesses are sole proprietors. And where they pick finances is from informal microfinance institutions.
That's right.
So, and you know that in this country, the SACCOs have become the vehicle to deliver even government support to these businesses. But have we been inward looking to say, how can we use this avenue? We have a number of SACCOs, Yoga SACCOs, PDM SACCOs. We have microfinance support center SACCOs. How can government deliberately look inside itself to make sure that these can be an avenue for enabling business to formalize. So at the end of the day, we expect to get solutions from stakeholders on, besides concentrating on growing our business registers, to push businesses to register. Government has to be inward looking to make sure that we work as a unit. Remember, we have a big task ahead of us to grow the economy 10 times from 50 billion and our 10-fold strategy to 500 billion. That task is so huge that we're not going to be doing business as usual. And you can't achieve that when 54% of your economy is contributed by informal sector players.
Okay.
So we expect that we'll have concrete practical solutions on how government needs to work beyond pushing only businesses.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Brian Serunjoji, Research Fellow at the Economic Policy Research Center, for bringing us on board in as far as the policy dialogue that is happening right now here at Protea is concerned. This is not just a brick and mortar engagement, one that people will go back and say, we attended that. This one is designed to ask the critical questions and what those friction points are in as far as informality is concerned. For those that are joining us live, the hashtag, especially if you are on X, is BizFormal 2025, and you'll be part of the conversation. You can share that across your profile, and many other Ugandans who might be within your circles but are not formally registered and are not paying tax or contributing to the economy can finally begin that very, very significant journey. Later, when the panel that is now beginning will be done discussing that, we shall return and give you an overview of exactly what submissions have come through in as far as the policy dialogue is concerned. For now, though, let's return to the dialogue, which is inside the hall here at Protea, and listening to those submissions as being delivered by the presenters. I'm Chris Higenyi. I'll see you later.
Where the bulb, where the socket, where the flat iron, you'll have spent over 3.5 million on one item. And the argument from the director was, while others are enjoying the market, aren't you holding our hands, Mr. Issa? Because I'm a representative of Gabde Register, an ISO certifying company, I stood the ground and insisted that one of the best ways we shall market our products if you have the certification and we have all the Q marks that are needed. While that was the discussion, I am also telling you that I also had a very heated debate with the importers of textile and garments who are saying now, Mr. Sechi, to forget about the country Uganda, forget about begging the president. Now they are now even trying to imprison you. Let him put as much taxes as he wants on the textiles and garments. Let them even be charged in kilos, because we have found a way of how we are going to smuggle these items. It is a question of closing our formal companies. We deliver and import it through Kenya in different names, and we pay taxes through there, and we come to sell the goods in Uganda. What a controversy. The Uganda Registration Services Bureau, the URA, have been on a massive campaign in the business community to register companies to become formalized. Here is now a campaign of very high taxes, not anywhere in the region, that is discouraging the registration process. If you are allowing people to run away because you have refused to harmonize the taxes across the region, yet we are regionally playing, then it is you, the government, that is discouraging the informalization, as it were. 3-4 years I made a research of how much tax an informal trader and a non-informal trader pays, and at the deductions, we saw that the informal trader pays more than the formal trader, because, for example, if you are registered, you could claim back at the VAT, which is 18%, together with an exemption of 6% withholding tax, and 18 plus 6 is 24, and an informal trader cannot have any chance of regaining even 1% of that. And therefore, an informal trader thinks he's paying less, yet in actual sense cannot claim any that has been paid, and therefore is a loser. despite all this, it is very advantageous for business people to register. For example, I was also dealing in the last week with traders who have come to our office and their properties are being taken away by money lenders. And the contracts that we have made, when we analyzed them, it is as if they sold the properties. You borrow money, and on the contractual obligation, because you hurriedly want the money, you say, I, Issa Sechito, I'm borrowing 10 million from so and so, and I informal money lender, and the agreement is I have sold my house at that 10 million shillings. Thinking that the business that you are going to operate is going to go through soon, and then you will pay back and regain the properties. Millions of Ugandans have been cheated through the informal money lenders. This and the other examples that I can give shows you how important it is to register a business. But it also gives you a challenge of how government, the business people in Chikubo, are casting Kasita for encouraging them to become formalized. Because what the Revenue Authority does, the moment you have a tax identification number, then you are condemned. Other than widening the list of taxpayers, they are widening the taxes that they are forcing you to pay. At the end of the day, you need to go undercover. Those who are not registered carry the day as against those who are registered. So, you really wonder whether there is a deliberate move by the Minister of Finance and the URA and the government in general to encourage us from formalizing our businesses. The practice leads into a different thing. If you cannot harmonize on the taxes, if you cannot harmonize even on the money lending institutions, if you cannot harmonize on the processes that we need to go through to widen the tax base other than the tax burden, we are deceiving ourselves that we are encouraging Ugandans to register. I saw my brother talking about the PDM and how a potential is there for these people that we have captured at the parishes. If we are ready to harass them the way you are harassing the traders, this ceases to be a potential. Yet it would be, if actually handled well, anybody who is highlighted becomes vulnerable as against one who is not identified. Now, than the benefits, any benefits that a business person would get from registering. That is why all accusations and fingers are pointing at the traders and the business community as leading in the informality.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it from the horse's mouth. That is how deep it goes when it comes to informality within the trade sector. Mr. Issa Sechito seems to suggest that it's good for you to act or to operate your business formally, because when you are informal, the loss is actually bigger than when you are formal. So you're better off registering your business. But Mr. Issa Sechito, let me just find out from you, how many of your traders, do we have enough traders or enough knowledge amongst your traders about regarding the issue of VAT refunds? You mentioned that when you register, you're better off that way because you can actually request for VAT refund, then you have some of that money remitted back to you. You talked about registering or claiming for exemptions. How many of our traders do we have, or how much knowledge do we have amongst the traders regarding that issue? Because in the end, those benefits may be there, but then the traders don't know how to go about it.
That's a challenge, both to CACITA and other organizations, but more to government. Because while we praise the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, in even one-time camping at CACITA to register our members, it was very good, but these were carrying two monkeys. One monkey was KCCA, and the other monkey was URA. Now, you want me to formalize my business so that I can benefit in the long run, and you are carrying a person who the next month is asking for income tax. So it becomes so controversial that while you are doing it at the same time and you are saving time and money, you are discouraging many who think that Revenue Authority is haunting them. Therefore, the number of people that know is limited, but we attribute it to the fact that the tax education workshop that URA heads today are not the ones that befit our members. You bring a person who is controlling billions, and you sit them in the same house with a person who is owning 30 millions as capital. You need to do sectoral sensitization workshops in forms of clinics. If you want to go to people who are importing or trading spares, please put them alone so that the questions that they are asking are relevant and they are not having the fear factor. Somebody has 3 arcades and is raising a point of information on IFRIS with a person who just wants to learn how to claim VAT from Uganda Revenue Authority. So they are not compatible. The person that is having little capital will not even raise their hand, where the sectors who are now manufacturers are rising. So we need to tailor our sensitization workshops for rights and obligations of the members of CACITA in their own sectors. Go to Wino, meet the people of second hand. Go to Chiseka and meet the people in spare parts. Go to Chikubo and call the people of sugar, cooking oil, and all this kind of business, so that the questions that are being answered by the tax facilitators are relevant to the audiences that we attend. But this business of calling us for one-day appreciation week, we are in the UMA conference, we are all listening to the wonderful policies. How am I going to rise when the big shots are raising their hands?
Thank you so much, Mr. Sechito. In other words, for the policymakers who are watching us today, for the policymakers who are listening in today, we need to do the right sensitization, not just sensitization, but the right, targeting who, and then do it in form of categories. You know, we don't just pull all the traders together because some issues are high above up there and then others, you know, are down here. So we need to know who to sensitize and when, and which kind of approach do we need to use. We need to streamline, because he mentioned that some of these things may make it worse. For example, if we're going to attach the tin to the nin, then the situation is likely to worsen within the trade sector. Thank you so much, Mr. Issa Sechito. I'll move on next to Mr. Nelson Mutatina Kache. I mentioned earlier that Mr. Nelson is the Assistant Commissioner Microfinance Regulation Department at Ministry of Finance. Now, one of the findings we found in our presentation here, we note that when we're visiting businesses, we noted that, of course, there are funds that government is giving out in form of PDM, form of EMIOGA funds, which are going to our traders, to our people down on the grassroots. Now, this money, we are all aware, it goes through circles. And Mr. Mutatina is in charge of registering these circles. Mr. Mtatine would like to know, if we channel this money through PDM and we give it to someone and they start up an informal business, do you think some of our government initiatives are actually perpetuating informality in Uganda?
Thank you, moderator. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, I can.
I want to stand on the protocol that was already mentioned. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to give a clarification on the rules of registration and licensing of SACCOs. In the previous presentation, it was indicated that these SACCOs are falling under multiple regulations or legal frameworks, and it is a big challenge that is affecting their performance here in Uganda. First of all, it was in 1999 that Ministry of Finance and Bank of Uganda issued a policy stance for purposes of clustering the financial sector in respect to regulation and supervision. So when you hear Tier 4, that's where it emanates from. Tier 1, those are commercial banks. Tier 2, those are credit institutions. Tier 3 are microfinance deposit-taking institutions. And those first three that I have mentioned are licensed, regulated, and supervised by Bank of Uganda. Now, the fourth tier, where the SACCOs fall, those ones were put under Uganda Microfinance Regulatory Authority. But the clarification I'm giving is that it is not Ministry of Finance that registers SACCOs. All SACCOs are cooperative societies, and they are registered by the Register of Cooperative. I saw a gentleman from the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. So it is the Register of Cooperatives that registers all SACCOs and other registered societies. So for the PDM SACCOs, they are not different from other type of SACCOs in terms of principles, purpose of formation, and the services they give. Only that PDM has a broader, approach through value chain. They look at production and productivity. So the issue of SACCOs, savings and credit, is just one component of PDM, which is the financial inclusion pillar. And I want to put it clear to you that PDM SACCOs are legal entities because they are registered by the Register of Cooperatives. But for purposes of providing financial services to the people, that is savings, credit, and other financial services, they are supposed to get a license from the Minister of Finance, Planning, and Economic Development. Prior, these SACCOs would get licenses from Uganda Microfinance Regulatory Authority, but because of the rationalization of government agencies and public expenditure, UMRA, which was the regulator, is now translated into a department, the Microfinance Regulation Department, where I come from. So the whole purpose of having them registered, the SACCOs, having them registered and licensed, is to ensure that those savings are safe, there is proper management of the SACCOs, and to minimize the risks. So far, government has done good in terms of enforcing, putting at least a regulatory framework for these entities. And my fellow panelists already mentioned that there is a problem of money lenders. But we also need to appreciate the journey we've moved. We never had these money lenders licensed before. They would get a certificate from the magistrate's court and start their operations. And the magistrate's court by then had no capacity to supervise them. And you cannot regulate what you cannot supervise. So I think the public outcry by then and the confidence in the microfinance sector and the money lending industry was so poor. But today we see most of them, as you saw the graphs. We first of all know where they are, where they are operating from, And we have consumer protection guidelines under Ministry of Finance. If you have any issue with the money lender, you register the complaint and it is resolved. In most cases, they are resolved, but there is need for continuous public awareness. So the PDM circles, as they evolve, already now they are registered by the Register of Cooperatives. They will need, after 2 years of probation, they will get licenses, and the Ministry of Finance will be watching them, supervising how they operate so that those savings are not lost.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Nelson Mutatina. You bring out very important issues regarding circle registration, and indeed we do understand that all the money that is channeled through the circles to go to the PDM beneficiaries, to the EMIOGA beneficiaries, these circles are indeed registered, they're legal entities. At that juncture, I wanted to know what about when the money goes and supports a business that is informal? Or when the money goes out and someone uses that very money from the government of Uganda to start up an informal business, does that perpetuate informality in your own opinion?
This, first of all, depends on how the processes. First of all, how do you get the money from the PDM? There should be a criteria from a PDM circle. These circles have credit policies, they have business plans, they have manuals that guide their operations. So how the money goes out, first of all, there should be proper appraisal by who takes the money and the business that they are going to do, and there should be monitoring. The biggest challenge we have with most of the circles now, they are informal, they are not licensed, but they are not, it does not necessarily mean that they are illegal, because at least they are registered. But with time, there will be a holistic framework where we have all these circles actually under one regulator. The processes have already started. Attorney General has given guidance. Stakeholders are meeting to ensure that whatever operations are happening in a circle, they can be monitored. Who borrows, who pays back, and what the money is used for.
Thank you so much. In other words, Mr. Mutatina is trying to say that there is more that needs to be done. We have to track and know who is it that's receiving this money. Where is it going? Are we picking money from the taxpayer and channeling it to an informal business who is actually not paying the tax? That's a question that we are yet to answer on the side of government. Yeah, I'll move quickly to Mr. Rogers Lubega. He is a senior research and quality assurance specialist at what we call UBRA. Ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned what UBRA is, so I will not say it again in case you've forgotten. Mr. Lubega, our research shows that there are so many employers out there who are not remitting social security for their employees. And when you look at the targets that were presented by Mr. Emmanuel Erem, we want to increase our savings from 20%, double to 40%. And we have so many employers out there who are not saving for their employees. And here you are, UBRA, you're regulating NSSF, you're regulating the likes of Mazima saving schemes. What do we need to do to have more workers on board, to have more employers sensitized or submitting their social security for their employees?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'll answer your question straight away, but I just want to throw some numbers that people need to hear here. We are talking about formal employment for starters. We are focusing on the informal sector, but let me just throw in this and tell you, when it comes to the formal employment, we are looking at only less than 4 million people saving. And when I talk about saving, we are looking at long-term saving, retirement savings. If I ask the question, who is ready to retire here? I don't want you to answer that question, but are you ready to retire? Have you saved enough? I will leave it at that. Of course, we have studies that we've also carried out together with EPRC and FSD, and it's very clear that Ugandans are not saving enough. That's one thing. And when you focus on the informal sector, we had one 3 years ago, which was a feasibility study on the National Long-Term Savings Scheme. Whereas different schemes have come up with products that target the informal sector. We talked about NSSF with the Smart Life savings and all that. Casita, we had one 2 years ago, which didn't perform well. Those were some of the studies we are trying to, the pilots, to see that we loop in the informal sector. Over 80% of the informal sector workers are not saving, and they are not willing to save if they are not helped. Those are some of the recommendations we got from that study. Today, as we speak, of course, I'm representing the accounting officer and the entire team. They are at Serena. We have a workshop on the National Long-Term Savings Scheme, which is as a result of that study that we had. And it's going to loop in everyone. We are focusing on that 80% of the informal sector, people who are not saving. And guess what? Is it that they don't have enough? They earn. They earn. But why aren't they saving? But your question looked at employers not saving. For me, I'm bringing in the informal sector. The employers are not saving. Yes, we do inspections as a regulator. We do carry out inspections. We have schemes reporting to us. We have over 65 schemes that we are regulating. But like I told you, it is only 4 million people. The doctor presented and talked about the 15 million, but the labor, the workforce from UBOS, we know that those who have the potential, who are supposed to be saving, should be 25 million. But where are they? Where are they? They are all in the informal sector. Whereas we struggle with the formal sector, it also has a design issue in it. Of course, there are so many issues that are coming up, and we have reforms that we are fronting to ensure that people save. You've heard of the public pension scheme that is coming up. The act is already in place, and we try to ensure there is adequacy and sustainability. There is money for the people who are retiring, and they are contributing, and government is contributing. It's going to be contributory. So to have these people save in the formal sector, we are intensifying on the inspections. Doctor mentioned that, of course, this is about the inspections for the employment something. But for us as regulators, we carry out these inspections. We have on-site and off-site to ensure that the governance aspects are addressed, because those are some of the issues people present in the informal sector. They think that their money is not secure. So if you have the governance issues addressed, then you can have these people on board. But again, I will mention 2 or 3 things to give comfort to the people around that there's something that is being done. With the workshop that is going on right now, and the launch of the National Long-Term Savings Scheme, NLTSS, which is coming up, we are looking at partnerships, collaborations. And this is something that has come through from my boss from Ministry of Finance, the keynote address that came through, the presentation, the documentary, and probably what EPRC is pushing, collaboration. We need to work together to ensure that we have everyone on board. People have to save for their retirement. We need to deal with the old age poverty. So with the informal sector and the NLTSS I've talked about, we are looking at a few things. One, we are looking at the government incentive. This is going to run for a short time, and then it's like helping someone to walk, and then later you let them move. So that is the pilot that we are doing, starting. These are things that have worked in other countries. I mean, if you go to Rwanda, the Ejoheza scheme, that's how it started. But of course, that works with information. If you have the information documented properly, you know that borders earn this much, the artisans earn this much, the market vendors and the rest, because those are the people in the informal sector. They earn this much, and you see how you can help them. That's number one. Number two, we are trying to make it easy, and it has also come through presenters, I think, and they talked about it. We have to ride on the technology that has come up, making it easy for people to register and save. If you look at the smart life, that's what it's doing. We need to cure that operational obstacle that has been there. Three, sorry about that. Three, we are also looking at when people save, and this we've piloted it with Mazima scheme. If they are saving for long term, have a portion that is available to them, because people don't. Mr. Sachito, you will agree with me. Yes. Your people, when they save, they want to access their money the following day. Yes. So we are like, how can we deal with this? That's why the Smart Life gives you options on how to save. Maybe you save for 12 months, target saving and that kind of thing. So we try to cover those gaps and ensure that if you save maybe 100%, 50 is long term, 30% is available to you, 20% maybe is for insurance coverage, that kind of, make it enticing for people to save. And that will help us to loop in the informal sector. And the few studies we've undertaken, I've personally participated in them, and people are positive about it, and I believe they will be positive. But on the informal sector, to answer your question on how to get these people on board, I can tell you their efforts there. And as of June last year, we had 2.9 people, members saving. Today, we are talking about 4 million. It's a huge gap, about 39.1%. That's an increase in that membership. When you talk about the coverage, which was about 15.7, today we're talking about 16.1. It's going up. Contribution to GDP, which was about 12, we are going to 14. And as we move with the 10-fold strategy, we could reach 2040 like the way it was in the presentation. So there are efforts there, and the regulator, maybe I should also note this, the regulator is not supposed to start schemes, and we are not starting schemes. We are doing this under the regulatory sandbox to test this product. Once it kicks off, there will definitely be trustees to run this, administrators, custodians. With all that set up, the governance issue to be secure for someone who is saving in the informal sector to know that their money is safe and they will be able to save.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lubega. It looks like Ubra is really busy cooking so many things that we're yet to see, to have so many informal players. However, my question, which you will answer later, because I need to move on to the next panelist, is you mentioned that we have about 80% of workers, of people, either not saving or not even willing to save. So my question here is, are they just not willing, or they don't have what to save? Because we understand that typical informal sector worker actually lives hand to mouth. We have so many people in Uganda, whatever they make for that day is what they're eating. So is the issue about not willing to save, or actually not having what to save?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Can I answer that quickly?
In 1 minute?
Maybe something that you need to add to that is that income of theirs is not consistent. That's the other bit. That it comes in today, tomorrow they're not sure whether it will come through. Then tomorrow, the other day, they have more coming through. So the issue is, yes, over 80% of such people in that category are not saving. Are they earning? They earn something. And from what we see from the circles, the cooperatives, the village savings things, and all those organizations that people have in the informal sector, they raise some money, they get some money. We need to create awareness, we need to incentivize them, we need to give the assurance that their money is safe, and we also need to give them that bigger picture that at some point you won't be working, but you need to earn something.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Lubega seems to suggest that whether you're earning 1,000 shillings, save the 200. Whether you're earning 5,000, save the 1,000. Yeah, please take note. I'll move on to the next panelist who hasn't yet spoken. Media panelists, in case you're not speaking, kindly turn off your mic so that we reduce on the echoes. kindly. Thank you so much. Next, we have Mr. Enoch Mutambi from the Ministry of Gender. We've had issues of labor inspection coming through during the presentation by Mr. Erem. Mr. Mutambi, I wanted to know what regulatory barriers really weaken the labor inspection function of the Ministry of Gender. We note that there are so many workers out there who do not have contracts. There are so many workers out there or employees who are working under very unsafe conditions. So many of them, like I mentioned earlier, their employers are not saving for them, they're not remitting their social security. But we need someone to come to these workplaces and ensure and tell this employer, hey, we want to have all your workers with contracts. We want to have all your workers working in a safe environment. But that function seems to be lacking from the presentation that was made. So what could be the regulatory issues on your side?
Yeah, thank you so much. Maybe let me start from a point of disagreement. To say that that function is lacking is not true. The function of labor inspection is not lacking in the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. It is existing. What perhaps might be a challenge is the scale of labor inspection. When I came in, I found Dr. Emmanuel was talking about the number of inspectors, 21 out of 10 for 10.2 million workers. And the 21 that was brought up is actually the labor inspectors at the central government level. And it's true that labor inspection should be centralized, but because of circumstances, we have gone beyond centralization, and every district in Uganda, municipality and city, has a labor officer who is a labor inspector. Substantively, we have 117 across the country, substantive labor officers, and they take on that function of labor inspection. However, the scale is still huge. Imagine a district and one labor officer. That is a big scale. But at the same time, when you come to the national level 21, the scale is so huge also. So the reach, how many workplaces can we reach, is the main challenge, is the main barrier. That is one. But two, also related to this, are issues related to funding. We talked of about 255 labor inspectors who would be required at the national level. And we have only 21. What could be the challenge? You see, institutions have mandates, but if you go to the reality, as a country, do we have adequate resources to have all this? So the issue is where we decentralize, but at the same time, issues of logistics are very serious. There are logistical issues as far as labor inspection is concerned. All these work to make labor inspection less effective, but also without forgetting the issues of capacity. There are issues of capacity. By the way, the capacity has increased quite drastically in the last 5 years. In the last 5 years, I think the districts which had labor officers were very, very few. But government has consistently been increasing the number of labor officers within the districts, and it has scaled up the level of inspection. But overall, there is still a gap as far as labor inspection is concerned. Government is trying as much as possible to fill this gap, but these institutional barriers do exist. But also there were issues that were mentioned earlier about the institutional coordination. And I think somebody mentioned about the institutional mandates. Institutional mandates are okay. UBRA does inspection because there is what they are looking for as far as retirement is concerned. The Ministry of Labor goes for the occupational safety and health, for the contracts, and then URA will go for what they are looking for as far as taxes are concerned. However, the gap that I see which is missing is the institutional coordination. Can we work together and increase the scale? Because if we did joint inspections, it would increase the scale as far as inspection is concerned.
Thank you so much. That is very, very insightful. Yes, he acknowledges the fact that the inspection function is working. However, there are some issues. Ladies and gentlemen, before I carry on with my panel, I would like to recognize the presence of Honorable Beatrice Sakelo, who has just joined us from the Office of the President. You're most welcome. Yeah, so over to you. I think I should go for the second round of questions, which should be very brief and fast because we're running out of time. I'll go back to you, Mr. Issa Sechito. We've had instances where you see a trader, you know, you are registered business seated somewhere, and then some other business just erupts just next to you, either in your veranda or just in the neighborhood. Some informal, you know, businesses just erupt anyhow and anywhere in Kampala and even other cities. So in this aspect, I'm asking, what do you think we need to do to organize the city? What would you recommend as someone who is down there, downtown, to have everyone doing business where they're actually supposed to be doing it and not on the street and not on someone else's veranda or on someone's roof, you know?
We need, first of all, to have political sobriety so that if you give powers to the KCCA, you mandate them to do their role. I have written personally since I ascended to the Kasita office as chairman in June. I have drafted 6 letters to the executive director of KCCA, including threatening her not to come to collect licenses until she removed the street vendors that are massed all over the streets on all Benchwanka, Nabugabu, all the places are filled. There is a misnomer, people thinking that these goods are provided by us, the importers, or the big dealers. Unfortunately, this is wrong. There are many young ladies, young boys, who have collected some capital from their parents, went into the shops, and procured items from the major dealers. They display them, they pay rent expensively, they subscribe or pay income tax or presumptive tax, whichever applies. They pay for a very facility, electricity and everything. And unfortunately, the same buyers of the same products who go to buy in bulk and litter them all over the streets and the doorways. People are inside the arcades, people are inside the markets, and they are having no buyers. So it entices even those that are in there to also go and fall up. This is very unfortunate. The last communication that I got from the KCCA is not worth mentioning on the microphone, because somebody was saying these are, let me say it, these are president's people. Unfortunately, they cannot be removed during elections. And I wrote back to ask who is not a president's person. Are the shopkeepers not president's people? Are the market dwellers not president's people? So if we remove politicking from the business operations, this is a day operation. If the government is decided to do the right thing, I don't need even one police officer to remove these boys. I just need the backing of a big politician to do it alone. Therefore, all the mess you see around town, you will be surprised. I also want to mention this. My brother from the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, we have argued with them on charging of taxes in kilos on garments and textiles, contrary to other East African member states and the world over. And in the corridors, some people tell you this is a presidency tax. So the only monster that is killing the trade order in the city is politics. If we can get to arrest this monster called the politics at whichever level, people will come. Forget about the president. Go to the MPs, aspiring MPs, go to the Lord Mayor. If you hear the spirited fight, this man of rule of law, the spirited fight will put on the illegal people on the streets. You will forget that he's a singer of rule of law anthem. Therefore, it is very easy to manage Kampala if the authorities that are delegated to do the work are doing it without infiltration of the cheap politicking that is happening on the streets. So the trade order that we all need, the buyers, look at go to Barton Street, look at the taxis. A very small space is lot for the pedestrians and is filled by the border riders. The taxis who would be inside the parks are rotating and turning in whatever formation across the divide. And you only need 2 traffic officers to get to control that. If you did that, they will say, you people, these are our people. For as long as we sing the song of our people, we cannot achieve the trade order that we want in the city. I am soon meeting the president to ask him when we can become his people, as people operating the shops and the markets, so that we can also take what is due to us, especially if I pay the license, if I pay the market due, if I pay all the taxes in my small shop, I need it to be facilitated, because that's what the law requires. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Issa Sechito. He raises very important political economy aspects. And the good thing, we have a representative from the Office of the President, and I think she will iron out some of these issues that Mr. Sechito is raising. So I'll go quickly to the next panelists, but briefly, each one of you is going to tell us how each of your institutions can work together with URSB, with URA, to ensure more and more formalization of businesses, of circles, of workers. Each one of you in just 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. In 2 minutes, I can say that it is important to have those strategic partnerships, especially to make the whole process of formalization cheaper and effective. For example, we need to see a single portal, one-stop center, where applications for licenses, for URA, rather for URSB, registration application for the license from the microfinance regulatory department in the Ministry of Finance, tax clearance, where you can have one portal and you have everything done. It is not only cheaper, but it is effective. Also, having...
Hello, we are coming to you live from Protea, where the Economic Policy Research Center is holding a dialogue on informality of businesses. And over the last 1 hour, you've had submissions from officials, including Issa Sechito, the chairman of CASITA. You've also heard from officials from the microfinance institutions and other policy makers. The discussion has been bold, it has been wide-ranging, and many of the issues that have come to the fore, including the fact that many traders are not willing to formalize on account of the fact that, in the words of Issa Sechito, 2 monkeys, Uganda Revenue Authority and the Registration Services Bureau are all waiting to come in full force in order to ensure that income tax and a whole range of other taxes are paid by these traders. But we have with us Dr. Brian Serunjoji, the research fellow at the Economic Policy Research Center, who is going to tell us what is next after these particular submissions. Doctor, you again, welcome.
Thank you.
On NTV Live.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Right, from the discussion, the key issues have been many. And for us at the Economic Policy Research Center, you ask a good question, what happens next? Yeah. We are, since we are evidence-based, we are going to put we're going to produce a report. That is right. That is going to, first of all, highlight the key messages that we need the government, the regulatory framework to move forward. And we've seen quite a number. Yeah. One of the things that has been stressed is the need for streamlining regulatory processes around informality, making sure that partnerships across government institutions work. Okay. For the workers, reducing workers' informality. For workers, reducing workers' informality. We've seen that there's a need to have institutions governance of places where people are contributing, especially for the workers' contribution, to tighten governance to make sure that you encourage people to formalize. Also, the complexity and the two monkeys that you talk about. Yeah. It's time for government to act. Yeah. We have reduced formalization too much to tax compliance. And that is what we want to push to government, to debunk that. Formalization does not mean tax compliance. That is right. That is a key message that is coming out from even Mr. Issa's submissions. Yeah. So for us is to take these messages, put it together and submit it to the key government ministries to show that if you want to move an economy tenfold, there are things that government has to do, right? And one of them, partnerships, debunking the perception that is already there. The moment you register, URA and other authorities come to you to collect revenue. I think we're going to put all these and many of the submissions that are still ongoing into a report and submit that to the Ministry of Finance, which is supposed to which has a mandate to make sure that this economy formalizes and moves to where the ambitions are.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Brian Serunjoji, a research fellow at the Economic Policy Research Center that has organized the policy dialogue on talking about beyond registration and what is driving the informal sector in the country. We expect the Minister of State for Economic Monitoring in the Office of the President, Honorable Beatrice A. Akello, to give remarks a little later as the panel winds up that particular discussion. For those that are following online, and that is X, the hashtag is BizFormal 2025. You can be part of the conversation. We would like to say our goodbyes to our live audience that has been joining us on NTV. The discussion does continue here at Protea. I'm Chris Higenyi. Good afternoon.